Why this book? I took the manuscript back on my table and I said, now I need to complete what is unfinished.
Why this book and why title as the visual past?
I've always wanted to document or put into writing whatever I had in my mind.
And the volume 1 is already doing so well. So probably we should ask you in terms of when the movie would come out.
Well, that's another thought in the mind. We could make a lovely movie.
Do you think AI has changed the way jewelry making is done or jewelry designing is done?
AI is a tool, but to give instructions to AI, you need to have the knowledge of the culture or the deeper sense of being.
If I may ask, when are we going public?
I don't think I need to go public. It's nice to be private.
Welcome to SapnaRise, a platform where we bring you closer to the stories, insights, and wisdom of some of the most distinguished authors and thought leaders. At SapnaRise, our mission is simple yet profound: to inspire a nation through the power of storytelling and the written word. We believe that every story has the potential to ignite change, spark innovation, and build a better future. Unlike other podcast series, our focus is solely on authors and their stories. Stories that not only entertain, but also provide deep insights and life lessons. Through candid conversations, we explore the creative process, the inspirations, and the understanding embedded in the pages of their work. Whether you're a passionate reader, an aspiring writer, or simply someone who loves a good story, SapnaRise is your gateway to the world of books and the remarkable people who write them. SapnaRise is an initiative of Sapna Book House, India's largest book mall. And my name is Nijesh Shah, director at Sapna, and I am thrilled to kickstart a very special SapnaRise podcast today. Today, we have the privilege of hosting Mr. C. Vinod Hayagriv, the managing director and the proud fifth-generation custodian of the iconic C. Krishniah Chetty and Sons. With over 155 years of heritage, this brand is a shining beacon of excellence in the world of fine jewelry, blending traditional excellence and modern innovation. Under Mr. Hayagriv's craftsmanship and visionary leadership, the company has not only perceived its rich legacy, but also adapted to the ever-evolving demand of the global audience. Beyond being a successful business owner, Mr. Hayagriv is a passionate advocate for sustainability in luxury and a storyteller at heart. As showcased in the recently published book, which we are about to discuss. The book, which is called Carnatic and Deccan Bejeweled Past, is something that is an exciting read for one and all. Join us as we explore the fascinating journey of this family-run business, the cultural tapestry it represents, and the timeless allure of jewelry that tells a story. Good morning to all our viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an iconic brand with us, Sri Krishniah Chetty and Sons, a 155-year brand and the leader in the jewelry industry across the country. We have with us Mr. Vinod Hayagriv, who is the fifth generation business owner of this wonderful, sparkling brand. And we have a book that has been written, conceived, and published by the man himself. So, sir, to start off with, the first question to you: why this book? You being in the jewelry industry, 155 years of legacy, and thinking of writing a book, why this book and why title as the Bejeweled Past?
Well, Nijesh, I've always wanted to document or put into writing whatever I had in my mind. Ever since I was a child, always wanted to be interested in the family's history. Thankfully, our ancestors imbibed into all of us the values of good living, good business, and everything in a very nice way.
So, sir, to start off, the very first question: why this book? I mean, it's an iconic brand, CKC. You've been a part of the business for so many years, the the fifth generation entrepreneur, the business owner of the sparkling pan-India presence brand, right from the royal times of the India post-independence till today. So you've written this book after so many years of your business legacy, probably the first book of your business. So why this book and what inspired you to pen down this book today?
I think the roots are when I was very young. We lived in a beautiful home, and I grew up in that home with lovely gardens. There's always a little bit of intriguing or kind of inquisitive desire to go into the history of the family. Over the last, I'm 64 years old now, so over the last 40 plus years, I've been harboring thoughts about what made this business and the family what it is today. However you look at it, something that lasts, 100 years or more is something precious. I was also part of the 1969 centenary celebrations, a very interesting celebration that happened at the Lal Bagh Glass House in the city. And I think it's the only commercial fashion show. We brought fashion shows into Bangalore. And therefore, from that point of time, at the age of 9, I became very interested to find out why are we so different? There is a lot of difference. What is that difference? Why is that difference? Over the next couple of decades, I mulled over every little detail of the family, every little detail of the business, collected all of that information, put them aside as much as I could. And then in the year 2000, when I met Dr. Usha Balakrishnan, who is, the foremost authority on Indian jewelry in the world, when she came up to Bangalore to address a section of our clients where they, listened with pin drop silence for 2.5 hours for her fabulous presentation on South Indian jewelry. After that event, she came up to me and said, Vinod, we have to write a book about Krishniah Chetty. I said, will you write? She said, I will gladly write. Give me access. So there began the manuscript that she wrote. She wrote 180 pages of fabulous content, going through all our documents, interviewing all of us, and putting everything together with some pictures. And she took about 2 or 3 years to do that. Once she had finished, it just went into the back burner. The manuscript went into the back burner because of our work and pressures of time. After that, it was a very busy time for us. We were growing well. Fortunately, we had a wonderful time of growth in the business. In 2019, I took the manuscript back on my table and I said, now I need to complete what is unfinished. Then I spent 2 years to look at every little full stop and a paragraph and a comma. I'm one of those unfortunate perfectists. Yeah, I like to be specific. I like it to be correct in every way. And it took about 2 and odd years and finally published this book. So it's something that grown in time with me for several decades.
So definitely it's very inspiring because while you're in the business with so many things happening around you, and like you said that you had a wonderful business expansion period from 2000 since the time you conceived the idea of bringing out the book till today, and of course till for the years ahead. You've been able to perfectionize the entire ideology of the South Indian rich jewelry. You also mentioned about Deccan and Carnatic aspects of the entire jewelry making, the process of adorning the jewelry in the south of India. So would like to understand more on the collaboration between the author, Dr. Usha Balakrishnan, and what type of research went behind it. Was it just about speaking with you, going through the historic legacy that CKC has, or also traveling to different spaces and places where probably CKC was able to, give their jewelry to the Maharajas, to the different iconic spaces and places. So how was the entire research? Because this is not just another book. It's a combination of the legacy as well as a lot of research of Indian jewelry, specifically down south. So can you throw some more light on the entire research part that went behind the book between yourself and Dr. Usha Balakrishnan?
Uh, we needed somebody who was well versed with the field of jewelry. So Usha Balakrishnan was the best option or the best person to be involved with this. We never looked at somebody else. We never looked at somebody else to do the writing. Purely by chance, she came up and said, Vinod, you need to create a document. You need to create a book. You write the book. You are amongst the only ones in India who has such a rich heritage. So she went through not only our designs and documents of the past. She, of course, interviewed my father, Mr. Hayagriv, who has a vivid memory of his 60 years, now 60 years, because he's now 88. And he and my mother. And we have relatives in the family who had some information, like my aunts and uncles who were still alive at that point of time. So other than that, records of the organization, documents of the organization, agreements, registered documents, various wills and registers, order books, design books, diaries of people, all of that was taken out. And some of them very dusty, we've not seen it for decades. All of that, fortunately, she was able to pore over them. In addition, she being herself a very knowledgeable jewelry person, she had a huge amount of information about the Deccan and Central and South India. We operated in that area, the Deccan, South and Central India up to Baroda. How much of information she could get out of all of these, she brought into the book. So she spoke about the history of jewelry going back a few thousand years and weaved it into our being. All of this together made a very interesting piece to read and to learn. She took a lot of time, multiple visits, multiple conversations, and finally the manuscript was about 180 pages of text and pictures.
Delving more into the research part of the book, how difficult was it for you to get the initial manuscripts, the initial invoices, the receipts, the documentation part, which spans over 150 years, right from the founders of CKC? Most of that is already present in the book. So how did you manage to get hold of it? Was it really well documented, or was it a difficult task or a challenge to really get down to those initial transaction receipts which you have published in the book?
Very interesting that in the olden days, unlike in today, the receipts were all hand written. Not only were they handwritten, but they were like calligraphy, which means the name of the client, the rupees, or the details of what was to be made was all calligraphy. I don't understand how in those days people would write with such phenomenally beautiful writing. When you keep looking at it, it's like a piece of art. That even the documents are like pieces of art. These, you don't even feel like throwing it away. Because it is so beautifully written, you don't feel like throwing it. And I think that's one of the reasons that my ancestors and the teams who worked at Krishniah Chetty maintained them. Yes, there are times between post-independence till now, 1947 till now, till the time we took those documents in the year 2000, we may have lost several things. That's also one of the reasons we said, let us put it into print. The best place to preserve history is in print. Of course, stone is the best, but print is the next best. So we had those beautiful documents. We had diaries my grandfather, great-grandfather had written. Now, all of that, where some of them were very simple things, like order for a pendant or something. But some of them were more detailed. They were little anecdotes. I would call it today anecdotes, but they were little episodes of history. Because, for example, when the Sringeri Mutt, one of the entries in the book is when in the diary of my great grandfather was that if there is the Sringeri Mutt discovered some rubies in their premises. Now that came to my ancestors to find out what they were. And when we said, when they said they found out it was rubies, then the Sringeri Mutt, the note over there in the diary says, Sringeri Mutt has found rubies and have offered it to the British government for taking over the premises. The British government said it is best that it is maintained by Sringeri Mutt. I mean, it's one paragraph like this. Now, this is something that is mind-boggling. Now, these are precious elements of information. These are the things that we took out, slowly read through. What is relevant to be put into the book? What is not relevant to be... Sometimes it's not relevant at all. It's just another episode of life. So we don't put it like this. We went through all of that. And as many as the book can take, the book now has 400 images, over 400, of black and white and color images. So which is, I think, okay for a volume 1. We will get to the volume 2 later.
I think you're a visionary, not only from a business ownership point of view, but I think in everything that you do, because you're already speaking about volume 2 and volume 3 when the volume 1 is already doing so well. So probably we should ask you in terms of when the movie would come out of a CKC.
Well, that's another thought in the mind. We could make a lovely movie.
Just to digress a bit of on this, speaking of movies, has CKC and the jewelry of CKC being part of any of the movies, either in the Bollywood industry or any of the other South Indian industry? And do you feel that as a brand, it's a great marketing tool?
Well, I remember in the book also we have photographs of Ashok Kumar, the Hindi movie star, being at Krishniah Chetty. We've had iconic people from cricketers to movie stars, other than the royal families, of course, who were very much there. So therefore, I don't remember Krishniah Chetty being in any movie at the moment. We've had a case where there was a discussion to be in a movie, but we decided not to get into it for some reason. This is another aspect. If the family, the history has done something and it has been fruitful, we take it forward. But if the family has decided not to do something and there is a reason for it, which we may or may not know clearly, but some of that we have to introspect and say there must be a reason why we are not doing it, and therefore we will not do it even today. So the history of the past gives us a direction for the future. For some reason, for example, we never made jewelry with the theme of fish. Now, why it is, we do not know. But the family has always said, no fish in the family. And therefore, till today, our designers also do not create something that has the element of a fish in it. Now, I don't know the reason, but I just say respect the past philosophies.
I think lots to learn from what you just said, specifically for the new age business owners, entrepreneurs, where tradition has to be balanced well with the futuristic vision. And you've mentioned that as a traditional family-run business, there are certain decisions that you've been able to take back then, which has been followed even today. So I think it's a great take for those who really want the longevity in business, where you have to fall back on certain experiences that comes from tradition, and then you have to mix it with the innovation rightly that CKC has been able to do. So a bit on that, in the book, I would like to understand more on how the entire Deccan as well as the Carnatic jewelry has inspired CKC, and why specifically the South Indian style of jewelry, and have you been able to really explore the other segments, pan-India, maybe the northern side of jewelry, Rajasthan, Gujarat, the more contemporary jewelry in Bombay, and the more again traditional part in the Calcutta, because jewelry as an industry spans in different aspects of wear, be it at weddings, be it at the homely affairs, or just at occasions. So why specific choose South India? Why the Carnatic and the Deccan? And have you tried to explore different forms of jewelry across the country?
I think the people we deal with dictate what we should do. So our clients have been predominantly from Kanyakumari till the central India around the Vindhyas. For some reason, our clients are here. The family of the Mysore, the
Right.
royal family,
Which
where
is mentioned very well in the book.
yes, we were appointed official jewelers to the royal
Right.
family of Mysore. Thanks to them, we've got a lot of referral clients from the Travancore family, the Sandur family, the Sabanur family, the Baroda family, the Ramnath, the royal family, and all of them, the Nizam of Hyderabad, all of them have come to us for small or big things. Over a period of time, that dictated what we produce. So we didn't have somebody from Rajasthan to come to us, other than the fact that some of the princesses got married to the central and South Indian royal families. So by virtue of that, we made what we made for them. So to a large extent, the consumer tells us, and we didn't have too many clients. As I understand from my ancestors and the records, we had a limited number of clients, only by and large the royal families. And they would tell us what to make, and we made it for them. We had 70 craftsmen who were working. And these 70 craftsmen were carpenters, goldsmiths, silversmiths, diamond setters, gemstone setters, cutters, carvers, die makers. These are the kinds of people who worked with us, the 70 craftsmen in a factory, which I call it now a factory, but in those days it was a workshop. When you walk into the workshop, it was like a fire inside all the time. It was warm. The temperature, there was no air conditioning. Parts of it was open to the sky, and natural air would come through. And there was energy of the 70 people working. Imagine you go into something like a foundry, and you have hammering going on, drilling going on, filing going on, die stamping going on. The hush and mush of people speaking and walking around and taking things in a tray. I mean, the atmosphere was electrifying, which I have seen until that was remodeled in 1986. Between 1969 and 86, I've seen some fabulous experiences that I've never seen before. These are the kinds of people, and the craftsmen were from here. So they would be expert at making jewelry that is of this nature. They were by and large Tamilian craftsmen, Telugu craftsmen, Kannadiga craftsmen, the Mysore family's craftsmen, and very few from rest of the country. Most of them were South Indian. So their skill sets was making the jewelry that they are best at. And our clients post some time, post the 1920s and 30s, were also British residents. So the British residents also demanded things which they wanted or they would buy in the UK, so in England. So when they came in, we had to make them jewelry or silverware or various kinds of artifacts which were different from the traditional jewelry that we made. So we made them, for example, in 1921, when the Egyptian King Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered by Howard Carter. It was a world rage because the fashion of jewelry just changed because of that lovely artifacts that Howard Carter took out from the pyramid. And that became one of our collections in 1922. And now that is something that I thought was absolutely, world class, where we had to make jewelry with obelisks of the Egyptian obelisks, with the hieroglyphics on them, which we still have in our museum even today. We have unsold pieces which we have them as exhibits. So these are the things, that is why we became specialists in the jewelry of the Carnatic, of the Deccan, as the South India.
Yeah. But just to understand, sir, very well put up in terms of the evolution of the brand. You mentioned about the Egyptian jewelry that inspired certain designs that you were able to bring right in the 1920s and so on. But if I look at 155 years, what do you think would be the change when you started as a group, as a company, from the 1800s to the 1900s to the 2000, now we're at the Gen Z era. How are you able to address a different set of customers with your different set of jewelry? So that's an evolution which I'm sure a lot of readers, a lot of people who love you, who love the brand, would like to know.
Uh, until about 1980, the the focus was by and large what we were specialists at. We would never look outside. So whatever we did it better. Post the 80s, when the population and the styles changed, a lot of migration started into the city of Bangalore. Then, of course, the world became a stage. Then we would take inspiration from everything and anything in the world. So much so that now, with about 20 of our award-winning designers, they create variety of styles that just does not have a South Indian accent or a Central Indian accent. It might be even you take it from Paris, or you take it from Malaysia. You can take it from anywhere in the world. To that extent, yes, it's changed, but that also is from the clients who shop with us. Whatever the clients we have, it's their taste. So we create what is good for them.
So I think another aspect of why CKC is so successful is because you take customer feedback very seriously. And I think that research that you've been able to do in terms of what is the demand in the market, in today's trends, you're able to serve. So I think kudos to you and the entire team. Also in the book, you've mentioned a lot about the temple art and the inspiration that the temple art has been in creation of some of your marquee jewelries. So could you throw some light on that in terms of why and how, and specifically any temple art that has been very inspiring or very iconic for CKC?
The temples have actually showcased a lot of jewelry styles. Our craftsmen, in the olden days, we had one or two designers. The rest of them were craftsmen. The craftsmen were designers. So these craftsmen came from very strong cultural background. They would come from artists' background. They learn art, they learn culture in word of mouth. So the guru will teach the shishya type of thing. And they are the people who created jewelry for the company or for the business. They had complete knowledge about tradition. They would know which thali should be worn by which community, what kind of pendant to wear for what kind of occasion. They were really not just craftsmen, they were merchandisers in this modern world. They were designers, as we call them in the modern world. With the current way, where there is a distinction between an artist and a craftsman and a die maker and embosser, we are losing out that unified understanding of the entire sphere. So therefore, there is a very large difference between the olden days and now. And I think we need to learn back from that and say this so-called specialization is creating some problem for us. We need to bring a larger specialization rather than a narrower specialization. But which we sometimes think it is multitasking, but it is not. It is an understanding. So you need to understand culture. If you go to a temple architecture, why is that Lord Balaji or Lord Shiva or Lord Ganesha, why are they there? In what forms are they there? And if you're looking at the Ghandaberunda, which we do so much from the Hoysala's time, the royal family has adopted it as their symbol, which is now the symbol of the state of Karnataka. What is the Ghandaberunda? What is the Sharaba? In our crest, we have, this is not something that I created in my time. It is on the building, which is 160 years old, the oldest building in the family. Right on top is this insignia of the royal family of Mysore, which has the Sharabas and the Ghandaberunda. Now, why is it there? What's the background of the Sharaba? It's one of the most powerful deities in the Indian mythology. The Gandhabarunda is one that defeated the Sharaba, which is the mightiest of the mightiest. And this is all part of the Indian epics. Now, to make jewelry, one needs to also understand that. Then you bring in the right motifs. Then you bring in the right embossing, the right dyes, the right story. Not everybody will understand it, but those who understand it will appreciate it. So that's the entire, the philosophy of design and making has come to largely, or a large extent, from the temples.
I think that is just so fantastic to know that there's so much that goes behind making the jewelry. As a consumer or as a customer, what we see in the front, but the ideology behind the jewelry, the vision behind each set of jewelry that CKC is able to bring out has a history, has a story by itself, like you rightly said. And it's simply wow. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people, and a lot of them would, after reading the book, would know the kind of effort that an iconic brand like CKC has put in to bring out some of the best jewelry in the market.
I might add there, being a young designer today is fabulous because they've got trained.
Also, the technology
they've got the best training at a young age.
Right.
But they need now to develop, and we focus on that, and we inform all our designers, even somebody who's 25 years old. Your job is just beginning. Your life is beginning. All your learning, put it into practice. But take the time to go back into Indian culture. You will then realize the world is, it's like you go to a restaurant and have a menu, and you have only the Mughlai, or only the Chinese, or only the Malaysian, and then you have only the vegetarian, and then you have a non-vegetarian, and then the whole world of fusion food. It's so vast. It's the same thing that jewelry has, but much deeper.
That's a great way to put it across. And I'm sure that the younger designers who are seeing this, and probably once they read the book, would really understand why it is important to go back to the traditional experienced craftsmen or the designers to understand what it is to bring out those kind of jewelry. Just to digress a little bit, since we're talking about young designers, and I'm sure you might be having a lot of them in your team. You think that the AI, a lot of them are speaking, a lot of industries are speaking about it. You think AI has changed the way jewelry making is done or jewelry designing is done as of today, or you still believe that going back to the roots, understanding the culture of how that this jewelry has to be made from that particular region still plays an important role?
I think that's a fabulously deep question you asked. AI is a tool, no different from the file and the die or the saw that we use. It's no different. AI is a tool, but to give instructions to AI, you need to have the knowledge of the culture or the deeper sense of being. So if you're going to tell AI that I need to create a series of jewelry with the Sharaba in it, with the link to the Gandhabaranda, and with the lions.
So you need that knowledge, like you said.
You need to be able to direct AI. AI will give you a finer output. So that's certainly a tool. But how we use it is with our knowledge. Therefore, our knowledge cannot be second. It has to be invested into, learnt, in order to get more out of the AI.
I think fantastically answered, and must say that this gives a direction to the new age designers, because somewhere I had also read that AI will not replace humans, but they will replace people who do not know how to use AI. So I think that answer that you gave was fantastic. Coming back to the book, in the book you've mentioned about the royal families. CKC has been a pioneer in addressing jewelry to the Maharajas of Mysore and a lot of other royal families. Want to understand more on the relationship, which is also a part of it is mentioned in the book. How did your forefathers, how did the founders of CKC have that kind of relationship, and what it is to really be the jeweler for the royal families in the country?
It was two generations that worked with the royal families. the second generation of Krishniah Chetty and the third generation of Krishniah Chetty. Both of them expired in the year 1955-56. These are the two members who worked very closely with all of these royal families. They would go to their palaces, they would have interaction, they would make what they want. It was a very personal relationship. Not only with the royal family scions like the kings and the queens or the nawabs or the nizams, but it is also their administrative staff, because they would be the ones who would actually finally write the authorization, as we call it today, to create something for them. So their products and their receipts and their instructions, again calligraphically written, even on a simple sketch, was something fabulous. And they would have the detail of the eye for detail, so much so they would say, look, this needs to be changed on the top, this needs to be changed at the bottom. It would go through that kind of very detailed labeling on the order form or the design or the instruction. And some of them were typed out and some of them were handwritten. But the clarity was something so good that we became also people with an eye for detail.
I think you mentioned right from the start that you are an unfortunate perfectionist, but I think that's very fortunate for the ones who are buying the jewelry of CKC, because that's seen in the art and the form of the jewelry that you're making. So, also in the book, you've mentioned a very deep connect between spirituality and jewelry. Of course, we heard certain stories of the historical, figures or the mythological stories of what and how regions and jewelries and god and goddesses evolve in the process of designing jewelry or the concept of jewelry. But can you run us through the concept of spirituality and jewelry both put together, and how has CKC really addressed this very important aspect of jewelry making?
If I were to ask you, what's the closest thing to you? What's one thing that is very close to you? Of course, your relationship with family, husband, wife, brothers, children, that's one thing. But a piece of jewelry is something that you wear on the fingers. It touches the skin. You wear something on the neck or the ears. It's right on the surface of the human being. There is a very clear chemistry there. Metal that's coming from earth, or a stone that comes from earth, and we come from earth. So everything together has a very strong power when they combine themselves. That is why several of my craftsmen today, when we give them work to do, let's say a pair of earrings, they would make it, finish it. I say, the due date is today, you have to deliver today. They say, we will deliver it tomorrow. I said, why? I can see the piece ready. It's nothing more to do, but he would not give it to us because he says, until I realized some of them do something very, very, very surprising. They finish the piece and they put it into a little cupboard of their own.
Okay.
These, I'm talking about the handmade
jewelry,
craftsmen.
Yeah.
Not the machine-made ones, the handmade craftsmen. They put this into a cupboard, and I've opened that cupboard to see why do they put it in, and there's a picture of a god over there. It's a frame, a small frame, and they keep this piece over there and then give it to us the next day. Now this, I think, is something, they're working from their heart and soul. They're not just making something and delivering it. So this is something that I have learned, is where all of us in an everyday matter, everyday work, we must put our heart and soul into it, even if we don't know the consumer.
Right.
We may not know the consumer, but at the end, can we infuse a little divinity into the product? Be it Islamic, be it Hindu, be it Christian, it doesn't matter. Put a little divinity in it and then deliver it. I think we are messengers. Some gemstones are so rare, it just comes to us once in a while, and then we pass it on to our consumers. Why? We are messengers. We are a route that nature has given. And that is why I keep saying to all the people who work with us even today, put your heart and soul. Don't do it for sake. Don't tick the box. Just do something, but actually put a lot of energy. Your energy. You first have to have a good energy, and you put your good energy, and then you transfer the product. There's a lot of spirituality there.
That's really deep, because not only it applies to the jewelry business, the formulae that I can safely say now that you've mentioned, it also translates into any business, that putting your heart and soul, ensuring that there is a bit of divinity in everything that you do, irrespective of the outcome. So again, very well spoken in terms of making us all understand the spiritual side of CKC. Just to also understand, you spoke about the artisans and the craftsmen who really put their heart and soul. Is there something that the company does to celebrate them? Is there something that you'd like to speak of in terms of helping the audience know the kind of work that the management of the company does in celebration of the actual the foundation of the company, that is the craftsmen and the artisans?
We do several things other than the fact that we choose who work with us.
Right.
Very important. They themselves have to be pure.
Right. Yeah.
In addition to that, every year there is one day which is the Vishwakarma Day.
Okay.
The Vishwakarmas are the people who actually create. Vishwakarma in Indian mythology is those who create. It could be anything. It could be creating life. But they are the people who create jewelry. And they come from that community. And they are, believe it or not, they're so pure and complete in their hearts that they are far more precious than just the jewelry, because they make millions of pieces of jewelry. When I say millions, figuratively, but they make a lot of jewelry. So therefore, be it a silver or gold or diamond or whatever, it is these people who are the soul of this organization. Without them, we cannot run one day's business.
So you call them the Vishwakarmas.
They come from a sect of people called Vishwakarmas. They are passed on the skills from
Generations.
gurus
Okay.
to the shishyas, and they are very good. Even in a mechanized factory, or we have training institutes that train people, they are the people who train, because they know it better than anybody else.
Interesting. So you believe that these craftsmen and the artisans are still available in plenty in the industry today, or they're very hard to find because of the advent of, we mentioned about AI, we mentioned about the new age designers, the machineries. You think that the tradition will be kept intact, because that's where the artisans and the craftsmen from generations, they bring in the picture. So what is your feel or take on the entire industry in terms of craftsmen and artisans versus the new age designers and machineries?
Let's rewind back. How did the Vishwakarmas come around? They were also taught thousands of years ago by people like you and me. They were taught the values, the importance of doing things right. They became such a beautiful community that they began to expand, and the number of such of them became a large number. That's how, if you go to the temples of Hampi in the Vijayanagar Empire, you would see even today the road that leads to the temple has shops on either side, which are ruins today, but they were at one time selling rubies and diamonds and emeralds on the street. Now that was the richness of the Hampi history. They were created by these Vishwakarma people who not only mined the stones, but they also created jewelry, and then they sold them, they transferred the knowledge and trained people. Now, with post-independence, a lot of white-collar, blue-collar jobs came up, which were easier. Crafting jewelry is a very strenuous process. Many of my craftsmen, if you look at them, they are muscular. They have big arms, big body, because they need the strength to handle gold and metals, precious metals. Now these people migrated out and went into these blue-collared, white-collared jobs because it's desk jobs. But post 80s, after the Gold Control Act and all was removed, some of the laws that we have in our country, in any country, either create the jobs or destroy the jobs. So here we had this case from the 1962 onwards, when we destroyed, in the Indian laws, destroyed our goldsmithing community. Post the 80s and the 90s, when all these laws got changed, we brought back a lot of young people, trained them to become craftsmen. Now, you may call them Vishwakarmas. They may be simple people from society, from the villages, from the urban centers. But you train them to become craftsmen, they become Vishwakarmas. So that's how we recreated. Today, the number of people who are able to work with us is quite sufficient, and it will grow. I think the industry also is doing good things for the craftsmen, so much so that our councils in the country are doing great work for craftsmen, and they have become so important that maybe we have to recognize them more, but it will happen. There are more and more better paid craftsmen. Their salaries are very good today. Their working conditions are superb. They all sit on desks and work, even if they're making jewelry. Air-conditioned places, working hours are controlled. Their life is beautiful. And that's what our industry is today doing.
Very, very nice to know that there's significant effort not only from the industry and the people behind business owners for the craftsmen and artisans, but also the government and the council that you mentioned, substantially doing some good work for them and preserving the art and the creativity that they have. I'd like to rack your brains a little bit more on the business side of things. Now, we spoke about the temple architecture, we spoke about a little bit about the Carnatic and the Deccan inspiration jewelry. We spoke a little bit about the Egyptian part of things. We spoke about the formation of jewelry and the spirituality part and the divinity part, but a little bit on the business side too, for us to understand more is from 1869 till 2024. Of course, that's an evolution, 155 years. There are many economic slowdowns in this entire 155 years of era. Anything specific that CKC has gone through, and how as a business unit you've been able to overcome it? Because like in any industry, in any business, there are challenges, and there would have been some setbacks, which as a business house today you've been able to overcome and move ahead. So a little bit more for things you've mentioned in the book, things that have not mentioned in the book, but for people who really would like to understand the industry and a business mindset. 155 years, certain challenges, if you'd like to explore more and talk about how you're able to overcome them.
It's not been a bed of roses. 155 years has not been smooth sailing. There were times when our workshops were to be closed because the craftsmen, as I told you, were very muscular, very tough. They were imposing. And when one generation passes away and the next generation takes over, there are times when there is a conflict, or the understanding or the misunderstanding happens. Sometimes it prompts the business owner to say, I don't want this, I'll close my workshop, I want peace. But you need perseverance. You need to say, there is a conflict, there is a problem, there is a genuine reason for it. How can we solve that? So these are the kind of things that the company or the business or the family members have gone through. They've gone through ups and downs. There were times when the World War II and the World War I, where it was a very tumultuous time for us. And so much so that there were periods when the business was shut down and the family moved to Chikmagalur, which is 6 hours away. And they had to move out because they were afraid of getting bombed here or disrupted and being killed because of the war. So these are things that happened. Similarly, there were days when there is unfortunate one time when one of the members of the family borrowed money, 7,500 rupees, and it grew to 75,000 rupees. They could not pay that debt back. They had mortgaged one of the most important buildings, which is still there with us today.
That's mentioned in the book,
It's
right?
mentioned in the book. They mortgaged that to a money lender. The money lender said, you have to pay me the money or I will take your property. If you take the property, there is no business left. So there were days that they would have to overcome such situations. Then it went to a court auction. In a court auction, it's a fabulous story there, which is there in the book. I think people should read it.
Yes.
It shows business philosophy.
Also shows a unity of society, yeah.
Which Bangalore had at that time.
Yes.
How important clients of the company became guardians of the company.
Right.
I mean, clients are rarely guardians, but here the clients became guardians. How did they become? Where in the world today will we find that? Why did that happen? Why did the clients want to safeguard the company? How many shareholders want to safeguard the company? How many public want to safeguard a business unit? Here is a true case which is listed in the discussed in the not discussed, but it is written about in the book, which is something that we all have to learn for the future, that don't disturb something that is so beautiful. Keep that going and make it successful. And that's the kind of history this book hopes to share with the world.
Like you rightly said, like this, there are many other stories in the book that talk about the history, the legacy, and a lot of learnings that one can really understand and go through. And there are snippets in the book for those readers who have not yet picked the book up. But once you do, you will see that there are snippets in the book which talk about the family-run business, certain tips and certain ways in which CKC has been evolved from a proprietorship to a partnership to a private limited company. And if I may ask, when are we going public?
I don't think I need to go public. It's nice to be private. I'm not averse to going public, or there is nothing wrong with public money in the company. You're sharing the wealth with a lot of people, so it's very good. But there's a time for that. So as of now, we are enjoying the business. We are doing a fabulous job. I think at the end of the day, it's the happiness quotient which is more important than the money.
Right. No, like you rightly said, the EQ and the HQ is more important than the vitamin M that people really want to chase after. A little bit about the family-run business, which we just spoke of, which is mentioned also in the book. There are a lot of people involved in CKC right from the time it started. So what are the challenges you feel as a family-run business that the company really goes through, and what are the advantages? There are, of course, pros and cons to anything, but this is a close-knit family-run business, and it's not just a business that was started yesterday. It's been a family-run business for over 150 years. So something that our readers and viewers can really learn from how it is to run a family-run business, and what could be the challenges, and what are the good things about it?
Most often, it is the succession planning that is important in a family-run business. There are two kinds of family-run businesses, if I may so. One is a family-run and family-controlled, and everything is the family does. But that is a very small business which runs on a more like a mom-and-pop kind of a business. The second one is where it is family-owned, family-controlled, but it is professionally run. So it is important to professionalize the business. It is important to make the business ready for the next generation, especially in today's world. And the snippets in this book has information about the challenges that we face and whatever we thought was the right way to help that overcome that challenge. So some of these snippets there would probably help young people or the next generation or the future generation to understand that these family conflicts do occur. They will be there, but that should not in any way destroy the organization. We should continue to progress, evolve, and grow. At the same time, maintain a certain what you call dignity and the holisticness of the business.
Right. And a little bit more about the generation ahead. So you would be the fifth generation in the business. You also have the sixth generation, and the seventh also is ready. I mean, getting ready. So how involved are the fifth, sixth generation business owners in CKC, and what is the message, or as their mentor, what is the learnings that they can have from you? What is the kind of knowledge you would like to impart to them, which also would help a lot of other family-run business holders?
Uh, a very important aspect is today's next generations are internationally trained. They are educated abroad, so they are exposed to the world outside. They see things in a different way. So, in a manner of speaking, there's a lot of discussion that happens between these people, different generations. As of now, we have three generations working in the organization. The fourth generation, the fifth generation, and the sixth generation are concurrently working. So, obviously, there is different opinions and mindsets.
Right.
But to a large extent, they converge on the philosophy of business.
The vision of the business.
The vision of the business. Right. So therefore, to that extent, it's a very good amalgam today. And we hope that will continue as the time goes by. The challenges are not very many, except the welcoming of new ideas and executing new ideas and evolving with times.
And you believe that CKC, and it's been 155 years, the roadmap of CKC, with the generation in front of you, you believe that the roadmap that has been lined down by the generation ahead of you and your generation and the generation next has the right mix of tradition, innovation, and contemporary thinking?
I think so. There is always a desire. There is no satiation by anybody here. All of them are wanting a very progressive mindset. They all want their voice to be heard and their voice to be acted upon with understanding the realities. So I think there is a very clear understanding of the philosophy, but also of the future.
And any specific advice that you have learned from your father, from your grandfather, which has helped you in the success of keeping the vision alive for the business and also growing the business?
I was born after my grandfather passed away, so I never met my grandfather. That is my father's father. However, my father has passed on to me a great deal of knowledge of what his father told him or his grandfather told him. I had also my father's younger brother, an uncle of mine, also who would share with me a lot of information. So therefore, there is a lot of knowledge passed on to me, which I again pass on to the next generation. And of course, we try to put them into our books so that it is useful for everybody.
Interesting. And specifically to understand more in terms of the vision of CKC, what is the vision in terms of the number of stores that it can grow into, the number of people it can reach out to, maybe global market, export market, be it the online market. Also, if you could help us understand more on the new age products, like you talk about this lab grown diamonds, which has come in the market. So where do you see the future of CKC, and which direction are you more focused towards?
We have two parts to our business, now three parts. One is the retail part, where we sell in our showrooms. The second part is a B2B, which means we would not sell to a consumer, but we sell it to other jewelers, which we manufacture and sell for other jewelers, which is a B2B. And there's a third one, which is an e-commerce. So these are the three avenues of business growth. There's a fourth one, which is an export business. We're not touching that at this point of time. We do export to consumers. So we have, fortunately, over the last decade or so, consumer exports are permitted. Before that, it was not. So we are now able to send consignments, even small consignments, to anywhere in America or Europe, and that's consumer exports. That happens. But truly, a complete export division is not something that we want to at this point. We don't have that in the vision at the moment. But these three avenues of growth, which is the retail side, the B2B side, and the e-commerce are actively going on.
Okay, fantastic. So I think you've not put all the eggs in the same basket. You've been able to divide it very well in terms of touching different consumer base, the online, the e-commerce, the export, as well as the B2B you mentioned, the retail segment of things. So I think that's again a well thought plan in terms of CKC's growth. Uh, Couple of last few questions in terms of understanding the book more. Um, any story from the book that you were very inspired, or maybe that's something that you've heard from your father, or that's something that you would have experienced, anything that you would like to share with the audience, and those who are wanting to really pick up the book, and how should this book be read? Should this book be read as a book of CKC? Should this book be read as someone who really want to understand the heritage of Indian jewelry? So can you help the audience understand how this book should be read? What are the different aspects of stories mentioned inside, and why should they read this book?
You're right. There are various ways in which to look at it. Now that we finished it and we see it, and every time I see it, there's a different take I get from it. One, of course, is to learn a little more about the South Central and Deccan region. What happened here? There's some interesting information there. Second is, what is the kind of clients did we have? So if you leaf through some of the pages, it mentions the names of clients. We generally don't mention name of clients in the current business, but the past business of the past, we did take their permissions and then we named them. So you'll get to know what did they buy and what kind of product and who were there. And some are stories of clients. Why were there something important? Some of them were icons of the region. They were the people who led societal change. So they are mentioned there. Another way of looking at it is, what does it take to last 155 years? I believe 155 years, when I speak generally to people, they say, wow, you've lasted for 155 and you're still doing well. But I tell them 155 is really a very, very small period when you compare this to, let's say, some of the English companies which were there, universities like Oxford, which has been there for 600 years, or somebody in Japan who have been there for 1,000 years. 155, we are little babies. And so therefore it brings the humility to us and say, boss, you're just a baby. You've got to go to 300 years. So that's the way to look at it. So this book has various ways in which to read it. But you don't need to read it from page 1 to page 390. You can leave any page at any point and there's something of interest to either appreciate in terms of pictures, or to read the captions under the pictures, or read little paragraphs. And there's a lot, and it will take some time before you can finish it all.
And it took you close to 2 years to really bring the entire essence of the writership of Ms. Usha Balakrishnan into this book. So, yeah, you were saying something.
She started off with 190 pages. She finished it at 180 pages. Post that, I looked at it and said, there's so much more that we need. And I added 120 pages and added another maybe 200 photographs. Altogether 390 pages with over 400 pictures. It's been a journey to write this book. It's been a journey to finish it. It's been a journey to share. It's been a journey of research.
No, I think I like to inform the viewers that this book is not just another book. This book is a culmination of history. This book is a culmination of a vision lasting 155 and growing beyond 155. The humility that the entire CKC family brings, the learnings of the family-run business, and of course, the kind of vision that CKC has been rightly put into the book. It's going to be a treat for many readers, those who are looking to get inspired, not only from the jewelry industry, but also any learnings from how it is to be part of a family-run business. Uh, I'm very, very happy that you've touched base upon all of these angles. That's going to help a lot of readers and viewers know why it is important to read this book. And last few questions in terms of understanding you, understanding the book more. Uh, do you have any favorite chapter of this book, or do you have any favorite segment that you've really enjoyed, either writing it or either reviewing it? Because of course, you would really enjoy from page 1 to the page 390. But anything really specific that has been really close to your heart, which has been part of the book?
There are many, but I'd like to recount one. We made a lot of jewelry for the royal families, including, let's say, a Golconda champagne-colored diamond ring for the royal family of Mysore. It was a gift. We made it. We didn't know what he was going to do with it. It's a 2.5-carat diamond in the 1940s. He purchased it. We don't know what happened, but we learn later that he had gifted it to somebody else as part of a big bouquet of gifts, which included a ring, a pistol, 10 kilos of silver, and cash worth some 400 bighas of land.
Wow.
Okay, all for the sake to reward or to say thank you to somebody who took good care of him when he went for a Badrinath Yatra.
Wow.
Now, gift giving is one of the things that we have made jewelry for the royal families. So on page 265 of this book is a very interesting story of another gift by another royal family, but before Krishniah Chetty's time. But it is a very interesting page. It's just one page, a beautiful story of the Nizam of Hyderabad and the British.
Okay.
I think people who buy this book would read it rather than me telling what it was. But it is an absolutely phenomenal story of how the Nizam of Hyderabad and the British treated each other. So this book is what you call a revelation of how royal families governed themselves, how the British treated the royal families of India, and how that very delicate relationship between them wove the history of India into what it is today. So it's a very, very unusual story. And I believe it's an insight into human behavior. And that's valid today.
I'm sure. I think you've not let out the entire story, but given the snippet or the background of what the story would be. We're very excited to read that in the book, and I'm sure a lot of others would also be very excited to read that in the book. But the gifting concept that you just talked about, that shows that the kind of person behind you is, in terms of valuing people, valuing things, the kindness and the friendship that goes behind just purchasing the jewelry. So very well talked about in terms of this aspect, and it's great to know that this is something that has inspired you.
There's another interesting, which is not there in this book, but it will come probably in the next book, the next volume.
I was about to ask you that as the last question, in terms of what next for the book. Is it only the volume 2 and 3, or is it a movie?
Like in this book, there is some serious reading, but also some fun reading.
Right.
There's some humor also in it. Because life is not all fun, it is also a lot of humor. Without humor, we would be all, very dull life. So the next book, I am thinking, there's a lot of fun that we've had in our business with clients, with associates, with a variety of peoples, society in general. There's a lot that we haven't really put in print. I think the next book would have some of that, but I don't know how long I will take, because it drains you. Writing a book drains you.
But I think now, since you've written the volume 1 and the response and the reception you've received for it, which is very positive, it's not going to take you a long time to come out with volume 2, because you've been a man who's always heard to your customers. And with this book also, I'm sure going to hear to all the readers that, hey, when's the next one coming? So we're sure that it's going to come out really soon. And we'll be talking soon again on this very chair, talking about volume two.
I hope that happens.
But speaking of humor, the last segment of this interview or the podcast would be is to get that humor from you. So we have a set of rapid fire questions which we're going to shoot out, and hopefully that you're going to defend them well
All
and
right.
let the audience and your customers and readers know the fun side of you or the personal side of you. So with that, we'll start with the rapid fire questions. It has to be really quick.
Okay, I will try.
So for say Vinod Hayagriv, is it gold or diamonds you prefer?
Diamonds.
The most remarkable piece of jewelry you've ever designed or sold?
For a very, very wonderful business magnate who now lives in London. But what I've made for him is amazing stuff.
We're going to get that picture and we're going to have it shown on screen. Okay, and one word to describe, in your view, Sri Krishniah Chetty and Sons.
Oh, heritage, personification of heritage
Fantastic.
and a valuable values and life ethics.
Fantastic. Okay. A piece of jewelry you think everyone, be it a male or a female or a man or a woman, should own?
It's a ring.
It's a ring. Okay. For you, is it heritage or innovation?
Innovation.
Fantastic. Some personal preferences of yours. Your favorite gemstone?
Too many. Too many. It's really difficult to put any finger on one.
Or the one that you probably are wearing?
No, but I think spinels of very high grade are something that's very beautiful.
Right. And for those of you who don't know about another aspect of see, we know the Hayagriv is you're also an avid reader. So, which is your latest book that you have read or you're reading?
As of now, I'm reading a book on rare cars and unique cars. So this is a new collection of books that's being published in the UK, and it's all the most beautiful vintage and classic cars.
We've seen the vintage car outside your stores. Any that you own?
All of them.
Wow. Okay. The tea or coffee person?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. An early bird or a night owl?
Early bird and a night out.
Both. Okay. A hobby you enjoy working outside of CKC?
Trying to get my handicap down on my game of golf.
Okay. And anything about Sapna Book House?
The most admired book house that you can spend a whole day and still not be satisfied.
Wow. Okay. And your go-to section in a bookstore, probably when you're at Sapna, which section would you really go to?
First, I would go to the section on humor.
Humor. Okay.
And then I'll try and find out if there's any books that are not in print.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. Okay. Your favorite travel destination you've been to or you would like to go to?
I continue to think Africa is beautiful.
Wow. Okay. The one museum or gallery everyone should visit for art and history?
The Kunsthistorisches Museum in Austria.
In Austria. Okay. Interesting. India or abroad, which market is more exciting for you?
India.
Okay. And last three questions. A movie or book that perfectly resonates the elegance of CKC?
Difficult to say, but I love something like has a lot of music.
Music, okay.
So the kind like Grease and Saturday Night Fever.
Okay. And if not in the jewelry business, which business you think you would have got into?
Never thought about another business.
Okay.
But if I were, I would make golf clubs.
Golf clubs, okay. That's nice. And last two questions, your go-to mantra for life?
Deep dive into culture.
Interesting. And describing yourself in 3 words.
Crazy guy who will not stop at anything to the last day of my life.
So I think there we have the answer to volume number 2 and 3 and 4.
Possibly.
Yeah, so you know that you're going to be writing, of course, growing CKC also, but writing alongside. And we're going to be very happy to, have more questions on your upcoming book. So fantastic conversation. Sorry, we don't have a hamper to give you online, but probably offline we'll give you something.
Thank you. Nijesh, it's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. There are very few times that I really have a very open, easy conversation, and you made it happen.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, sir. Honestly, it's a lovely occasion to be here. 155 years with your book, and we are at the Museum of CKC. A little bit about this museum before we end this podcast. We'd like to tell the viewers.
The museum is an open space for people to learn about history of Krishniah Chetty, history of South Central and Deccan regions of India, and stories of the business. Some of it is not as I said earlier, it's not a bed of roses in 155 years. So there are walls and audio episodes here which you can listen, and they are going to tell you things that you've learned something the history books don't tell you.
Wow.
And you link what you know from the books of history and the museum, and you become a better understanding of India. With a focus on Krishniah Chetty's products.
Right.
So whatever we show here, there are over 400 exhibits.
Right.
These 400 exhibits are all Krishniah Chetty's linked products, which means we either made them or we sold them or we repurchased them.
Okay. So you mentioned about the Egyptian jewelry right up at the start, which is also part of the museum.
It's also one of the exhibits here. So they're all made by Krishniah Chetty or sold by Krishniah Chetty, because we used to also import clocks and watches from Rolex and...
Yeah, it's there in the book.
Yes.
That's right.
So we used to import Rolex watches with our name embossed on it.
Yeah.
We imported from Mappin and Webb in London, Goldsmiths and Silversmiths Company in London. That products also inspired us to create our Indian cultural product. They created international English style. We created the Indian style. But we had the same perfection manufactured.
Fantastic. So this museum is open to public. Anybody can walk in and
it's
have a look at it?
By appointment.
By appointment.
Because everything is precious and it's open. So therefore it's by appointment.
Right.
And people can come, and they can even use this for studying. If they like somebody who's interested in history, we've got a great library of precious gems, jewelry, gold, silver, precious metals, and they can all browse through them and learn from them.
Fantastic. I think it was a wonderful podcast with you. Wonderful to know the man behind CKC, or currently the visionary of CKC, and lovely to know about the past, the present, and the future. As we wrap up the episode of SapnaRise and the wonderful book Karnataka and Deccan Bejeweled Past, we extend a heartfelt thanks to Mr. C. Vinod Hayagriv for sharing his incredible journey, insights, and the timeless stories behind Sri Krishniah Chetty and Sons. It's inspiring to see how a family-run business has perceived its legacy for over generations, but also adapted and thrived in the ever-changing world. From the rich history encapsulated in the Karnataka and Deccan Bejeweled Past book to the values that continue to guide this iconic brand, today's conversation has been a masterclass in heritage, innovation, and leadership. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you're leaving with as much inspiration as we are. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep rising with Sapna. There are lots more in the book, and you can pick up your copy at the nearest Sapna Book House or online through sapnaonline.com. At SapnaRise, we're committed to bringing you closer to the authors and stories that have the power to change lives. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. We have many more incredible conversations lined up, so stay tuned. This is Nijesh Shah signing off from SapnaRise. Keep reading, keep dreaming, and keep rising.